Okay, everybody, we are going to be doing a complete build of the AmRRON scripts, as well as using some of KM4ACK's 7.3 project on a Linux Mint 21.3 fresh install on a Maestro Evolve. This first part here, we're going to get the drivers fixed for the Wi-Fi on the Evolve. If you're not doing this on an Evolve, you can skip this part and move ahead. But if you are doing this on an Evolve, lots of people struggle to get the onboard Wi-Fi running, and these are the commands to do it. We're running these in terminal here on the Linux Mint install, and I will include a list of these commands in the notes below the video to help you guys out. But we're going to add the GitHub repository to our computer. If you've not installed Git yet, you'll need to install the software Git, and then type git clone https://github/lwfinger/RTL8723du. And after we get that cloned, we're going to change directories and go into the RTL directory and hit make to build it. And we're going to find out that this driver is obsolete and that the RTW88 is the one that replaced it. So I don't want to mess the make utility up here by trying to break it in the middle. So we're going to let it build this one, but we're not going to install it. When we get to the end of it, we're going to go ahead and do the new driver. Go ahead and clone that Git repository and then build it. You'll want to navigate to a fresh directory and not do it inside this particular driver's directory. So I went back out to the root directory of where we were working by doing a cd / and then running git clone, same command we did before, except we're going to do the rtw88.get, which will pull in the repository for that particular driver. Then we're going to change directories and go into that RTW88 directory, run the make command, and then we will let it build that driver for our system. And I'm speeding things up a little bit here in the video because it does take a few minutes. Now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and install that driver. Well, we're going to go ahead and take the make file and install it by running sudo make install. And at that point, it tells us that the firmware and files were successfully installed. So our Wi-Fi should be working. And we can go over and click on our network in the bottom corner, and sure enough, we see lots of Wi-Fi devices available there, and our Wi-Fi is running. So now that we've got that going, we're going to go ahead and go to the GitLab website for AmRRON's scripts. So I'm struggling a little bit with the keyboard on the Evolve here. It's a little different than my normal keyboard. And we're going to just do a search for GitLab AmRRON Setup and navigate into that. And when we get that opened up on our web browser here, we're going to scroll down and we're going to follow the installation instructions that are at the bottom. We're just going to run each of these commands in a terminal window. We can use that little copy function on the end to copy it, and then we can just right click, paste, and run. So we're going to run sudo apt install git. Again, you should have already had git installed if you were doing the part we did just a minute ago. And mine says it's already installed, but if you don't, that's how you install it. And then we're going to run the command to go ahead and clone this repository for the AmRRON scripts to our system. All right. And then from there, now that it's cloned, we're going to go ahead and change directories and go into the setup scripts directory. And I typed ls to just list what was in there. We can verify everything is in there as it should be. And now we're going to type // which is the execute bash command, AmRRON-Setup-Script. And I went a little fast there, sorry, but we'll do // AmRRON-Setup-Scripts And you can use the tab command to complete when you're typing in terminal to make sure you spelled it right. So it's going to pop up, give us a little information. We'll hit continue. It's going to check and verify what software that we already have installed on your computer. So if we were updating, it would determine what was already there. So now it's going to pop up the installer updater here, and it's going to give us a little information about what we're going to do and where it works. We'll hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and skip doing go ahead and do the update on Linux, and mine's going to check because you should probably do an update on your Linux before you do this. It doesn't find anything in mine because I'm current. Now you can always press the easy button here, but I want everyone to see exactly what all can be installed because the easy button just does everything. So we're going to select each category, and we're going to go through each category one by one and do the installation, or show what the installation can do. So we'll just select through here, and then these are all the programs: hamlib for your rig control stuff, FLDIGI, JS8Call, Commstat, your pulse audio, your GPS stuff, the AmRRON forms, does it all. So we're just going to tell it to install everything. Move on here to packet tools, and I'm just going to have it install everything because sometimes those are useful. And then we're just going to kind of keep clicking through here. We're going to install all of the security stuff here. There's a few things for Raspberry Pi particular in here that if you were doing a Raspberry Pi that would be relevant, but we're just going to, it'll skip those automatically because it doesn't work. And then we're going to install everything for just the utilities because you never know when you need a word processor. Conky is your heads-up display. Pick the one that you want screen resolution-wise. And then here we've got the all the software that's going to be installed. So we're going to tell it to begin. At this point, I would suggest you go make dinner or do something like that because installing all this software is probably going to take between 2 and 3 hours. There's a lot of stuff it's got to install, compile, and build because it's doing everything from source. Do check on it periodically because it will pop up and ask for your administrator password periodically to install certain pieces of software. So just, peruse by, check on it. And now through the magic of video, I'm going to speed this process up by 200 times. And we're going to blast through this installation in a couple minutes so we can just get moving on and get the rest of our software installed and configured. All right, so it's warning me that JS8Call failed to build and VARACrypt failed to build. I believe both of these issues have been fixed in the script since I recorded this a couple of days ago. This does happen from time to time. We're going to install JS8Call a different way, but if you don't want to do that, you can just usually wait a few days or a week and it'll get fixed. Or you can shoot the writer of the scripts an email and go, hey, what's up with this? But I believe in this case, hamlib pushed an update, and the update's missing some dependencies for JS8Call. So that caused some issues, and that's not unusual when running the scripts because software gets updated and it changes things. So now we're going to look at ARDOP. Some people aren't using this. A lot of the AmRRON folks have moved on. PrepperNet folks still do. And we use ARDOP with a piece of software called gARIM, and you can also use it with Pat WinLink. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed, and it's going to ask us a couple questions here kind of as we go. Make sure you do have your sound card or your radio plugged in while you do this, so it creates your .as sound RC file correctly with the correct device name and information. If you don't do that, you'll have some issues later potentially. All right, so it's going to tell us that KM4ACK script has also been installed, and this will download new WinLink information every night if you want to automatically do that. So we're going to go ahead and pop open another terminal window. We'll just go over here to File and select a new tab, and then we're going to open up the Linux scheduler for scheduling tasks called cron tab. So we're going to run the command cron tab space -e to edit. And then I like using nano, so we'll hit 1 to select nano. We're going to go all the way to the bottom here, and we're going to copy this command that tells our system to run the get ARDOP list script at the given time in the command there. I can't remember exactly how to translate that time, but I think you can read the instructions there on scheduling and cron tab, and it'll tell you if you want to schedule it at a different time, but it runs overnight and updates your list. So go ahead and add that, and we'll follow the commands at the bottom of nano to save. Now we're going to have Commstat 1. Commstat 1's installed, but you got to manually work on it. And if you're installing a GPS for system time, now's the time to make sure you have your uBlocks GPS plugged in. Doesn't have to be able to see the satellite. Mine can't see it from the shack, but I go ahead and plug it in, and we'll run this command, and it should set it up to synchronize time. We're going to mess with this a little bit later with KM4ACK's script and rework a little bit of that so that our Conky RC can actually show us our grid square on the screen wherever we're at, because I think that's kind of handy when you're doing field ops. So we'll mess with that a little bit more later when we pull in some of the 7.3 Linux stuff that I like. And it's going ahead and finishing up installing that stuff and running our security, and it is done. So now it's going to tell us to do a restart. So we're going to do a restart, and as soon as it comes back, we'll be right back to start again. So through the magic of video, we're through a reboot, and we are ready to move on. And I know this video is a little fast-paced, but you can always pause, go back, watch again, do that kind of stuff. It's going to take a while to get through this. We're going back to our setup scripts, and we're going to run AmRRON-Setup-Script. This is what configures our audio cards correctly so we can run all these software at once, including gARIM. So we'll just tell it we're going to use regular rig control the easy way. Don't do it the other way. You will probably break it. Just follow the easy way and use FLRIG for your rig control. And this should go fairly smoothly. When you start changing stuff, you need to know what you're doing. Now we need to select our ARDOP file for ARDOP software. So we'll just click that little folder, go select our ARDOP file, and hit OK. And then that's the file that it's created to run our ARDOP software while we're running our other software at the same time. And then that's our complex command that makes rig control work. Aren't you glad the software generated that for you? And now these instructions tell you the order you need to start your software. If you do not launch FLRIG first and then go ahead and start Pulse Audio and then rig control D before you starting all of your other software, you'll have stuff that doesn't work. A lot of people don't read this, and then they have problems later with their software all working and playing together in Linux or anything else. So make sure you do that, and then you start your software in a specific order. In fact, I always start JS8Call last because it tends to be the one that causes problems with others if it's running first. So we'll do ./AmRRON-Vara install, the command you saw there. And it's going to run that script. And it's going to go ahead and install Vara. Or it's going to install Wine, which is needed to run Vara. It's a Windows emulator for Linux. And there's a high probability here that it's going to fail to install Vara. It may install Vara, but it probably won't because they keep changing the Vara file name and it keeps breaking the script. So if it doesn't install, it'll at least configure Wine, and we'll go through here and configure Wine now, and then we'll go manually install Vara. It's pretty easy to manually install Vara after this sets up Wine for us. So we'll, when we hit OK here, it's going to pop open a window so we can configure the Windows emulator, the Wine emulator, to work with our Pulse audio sound, and then we should be good to go. So we'll hit OK, and now it's going to pop up here. We'll select audio, and we're just going to set all of these defaults to Pulse audio. And once we do that, we'll hit apply and OK. And that will have Wine set up, the Windows emulator, to operate with the Linux Pulse audio, so our VARA works correctly with our audio. Pulse is kind of cool because it gives us a separate volume input and output for each piece of software. So if they all have different audio levels, we can kind of tweak it to make it happy. It says we have no failures, but I'm pretty sure it didn't install VARA, because normally when it does install VARA, it will pop up and ask you to configure VARA. So we're just going to click OK, and we're going to move on. So we go to GitHub, km4ack/73linux, and we're going to follow the same instructions kind of here for installing 7.3 Linux. So we're going to copy that installation command, pop a terminal window open, paste it, and then that's going to clone that repository into our system, and it's going to ask us for a password. Once we run it, the second command to run it is there on the back on the page. Just follow the instructions on the KM4ACK73 Linux page, and then it's going to pop up and give us the call sign. I'm going to just type in N0CAL for demonstration purposes here. And we'll hit OK. It's going to check and see what software that we have installed. And then it's going to offer us to install more software. All right, here's our list of software to pick from. The trackpad on the Evolve causing problems again. All right, so now we're going to look through here. A lot of the stuff's already installed, so I'm just going to go through here and pick a couple of things that we want to install. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to install Chirp, even though I did Chirp a few minutes ago, but we'll just go ahead and make sure we have the newest version. We're going to do Conky because it's got some stuff we need. I'm going to do the dipole calculator because some people need that. Direwolf because it doesn't look like the AmRRON script got Direwolf when we did that. And everything else here looks like it's installed. Want to check right quick here and take a look at whether or not Direwolf is installed, and it didn't. So when we ran the Direwolf command, it didn't find the program. So no Direwolf. We'll have it install it from the 7.3 script, and then we need to grab the GPS base software here that KM4ACK is using for some of the GPS stuff that we want to do later. We're going to go ahead and do the GPS update, which is handy if you change GPS devices after you've set one up. And we're going to go ahead and have it install JS8Call for us, as I don't think it builds it from source, so it should install. And then I'm going to do the M0IEX utilities for JS8. It's kind of handy for certain things. And then I like the Pat menu software for editing some of the settings in Pat. It makes adding stations to your favorite and that kind of thing a lot easier than editing the text config file. So we'll install Pat menu, but remember certain parts of it won't work with the AmRRON build. Go ahead and grab WSJTX for people that want that, though I don't ever use it. And we'll get Yak, because you never know when you're going to need an APRS client. Some of us use our builds with their 2-meter radios and that kind of thing as well. So we're going to get going here, select our GPS from the drop down. It'll be the one that says the uBlocks if you're using uBlocks. And we're going to give it our password so it can do all those administrative things and install our software. Now that we have gotten through that, we have most all of our software installed. with the exception of VARA. So we're going to have to manually do that in just a minute. I'm going to take a second here and tidy up a few things on my desktop. We're going to pop our web browser open, and we are going to go to the WinLink website. And from the WinLink website, we're going to go over here to the Downloads tab, and we're going to select VARA products. And we're going to grab VARA FM, VARA HF, download those. If you want to run VARA Chat, you can download it and install it the same way. I don't use VARA Chat, so I'm not going to do that here, but you could if you wanted to. It will work. So now we're going to go to our downloads directory. I'm going to delete a couple of things here that I don't need anymore and just kind of clean up my workspace because it's easier when you're in terminal to do that. And then we're going to extract our VARA and VARA FM from their compressed files there, so they're easy for us to get to. And then we're going to pop back into terminal, do a CD to change directories to our downloads, and here we have our downloads. So we're going to type wine, and then this is too hard to type out, so we're going to type VARA, and then we're going to use our tab key to auto-complete until we get this correct, and it will auto-populate to the end because I would never get that right typing it by hand. Once we get it to autocomplete, we'll hit enter, and it's going to pop open and ask us to install the software. And this is just like running Windows. So we'll just click next and create a desktop icon. Do all that stuff. VARA is going to install, and then it's going to open up, and we can kind of give it a quick check here, make sure everything looks okay. And we have VARA. Take a look in the setup. Everything looks normal. I'm going to go ahead and click the accept 500 hertz connections because we need it to do that. And I'll forget later if I don't do it now. Now we're going to go back into our downloads directory, and we're going to type wine space VARA. And if I can type here, VARA and FM. And we're going to go ahead and install VARA FM in case you want to use this with your 2-meter radio and do some VARA FM work as well. I'm not going to create a desktop icon for VARA FM because I don't use it that often, and the desktop's going to get cluttered enough. We'll go ahead and launch our own, or launch our application, make sure everything looks correct. It does. And Pulse Audio, yep, we're all good. And then you'll have to go back in later and add your VARA license key if you have a VARA license key. So we'll just crash out of that terminal window. Go ahead and close our downloads window here. And we're going to start configuring software now. So your installation process is finished, and we'll go ahead and start configuring software after we make sure our link works correct for VARA here, because for some reason it's not showing the icon, and one of these won't work. It's this one that's not going to work. So we'll just delete the .ink file, leave the other one. Oh, and look, magically the icon appeared, so we should be good to go. I'm going to pop open my command line terminal window here, and we're going to fix a problem before we move on. I'll show you guys the issue right quick here. If you use ARDOP, the ARDOP GUI requires the 32-bit version of the Qt5 library, and it's not installed in this version of Mint by default because it's 64-bit. So I can't type here. Let me try this again. We're going to change directories here to our ARDOP directory. So, all right, or to our radio directory here. And then we're going to get an ARDOP. And once we're in our ARDOP, we're going to do // to run the command, the ARDOP GUI. And it says the library Qt5 widgets is missing. So we're just going to copy this command to install the i386 or the 32-bit version. And we'll hit run. It's going to ask us, or we'll type it in to install it, and then we'll hit enter to run it, and then do our password. It's going to ask you, sure you want to install this? We'll hit yes. And then again, we're going to speed things up a little bit so you guys don't have to wait on this to download and install. And then once this is completed, we can go back and run the ARDOP GUI and it will pop up and open. So we'll do /ARDOP_GUI. And again, we can use the tab command to complete that. That's if you guys wonder how I do that so quickly, I'm using the tab key to auto-complete the name. And this thing's not going to close until I configure it, so I'm just going to crash out of it by closing the terminal window it's running in. And that'll get it out of our way for now. We'll come back and configure that in a couple minutes. So we've got software installed, the last little update that needs to be finished there. I'm going to delete a couple things that I don't want on my desktop because we're going to be adding some stuff to the desktop here shortly. And again, it can get really cluttered if you don't. I'm going to have to change a setting here so I can reorganize things the way I like. I'll do that in a minute. Never mind. We'll just keep going this way. And you can change it so it doesn't put your stuff in alphabetical-ish order on the desktop, and you can put it the way you like it. But anyway, we'll do that. I need to delete a couple other things too. So anyway, so we're going to check and we're going to add our gARIM to the desktop. So we'll just right-click on it and tell it to add to desktop. Now we have the gARIM icon. We're going to do the same thing with vARIM, and we're going to add that. And now we're going to try to start up Commstat 1, which it won't start because we haven't installed it. It's sort of installed, but not completely installed yet. The scripts downloaded it and have it ready. So we're going to have to hop back in terminal and run the script that installs Commstat 1. So we're going to change directories and do the radio directory and change into the Commstat directory. You'll note that the Linux install.sh is in white, which it's a script, but it's not executable if it's white. It needs to be green. So we're going to run chmod plus X, so chmod space plus X, Linux install.sh, and that gets it green now, so we can run it. So /Linux install.sh, and that runs. It asks for a password. Give it a password, and it's going to ask, do we want to install this? So we'll give it a Y for yes, and kaboom, it's going to do that and open up. I was playing with some GPS stuff in the background that popped up there earlier, so don't worry about that GPS window. And now we're going to go ahead and punch some info in here. You can run two groups. You can only select one at a time. So there's two AmRRON groups there. And then we need to enter the file path to the directed.txt file. Now this gets funny sometimes because it doesn't want to take it or it doesn't want to work, especially on a new build. On an old build, it tends to be easier because you have a directed.txt file, it's populated, it's got stuff in it. But we're going to navigate and see if there's even a JS8 directory here. So we're going to go into your home folder. There's a hidden file called .local. You may have to show hidden files. Go to share and look, and there's no JS8. So we're going to open JS8Call, and kaboom, JS8 created a directory right there named JS8Call. And there we go. JS8 is going to pop open here. And it's going to be a pain until we do something with JS8Call. So let me rearrange some windows here. Try to get this out of the way, and we're going to grab our terminal window and we're going to navigate to the JS8Call directory. So we'll do cd/home radio /radio/.local/shared /JS8Call. And I can't type here and forgot the shared. So let's give that a try again. Make sure we are in our home directory. So, man, I can't type today. All right, so cd// that takes us to our home directory. And now we're going to navigate and see again. I can't type today. All right, so we are going to make sure the entire path is correct because we did cd / that takes us literally to the root of our hard drive. So we're going to just copy and paste that in there and delete the directed.txt and see if we can get there. And yes, it did. It took us there. And now we'll run an ls command to see what is in that directory. And we have a directed.txt file, but for some reason, Commstat doesn't want to take it. So if I remember, well, maybe sometimes you have to play with this a little bit to get it to work. And it's still telling me it's not found. So I'm leaving this in the video so you guys can kind of see that you have to mess with this a little bit. And when it doesn't work the first time, don't get frustrated. Sometimes you have to play with it. So I'm going to go over here and I'm actually going to type REM, which is remove, and delete the directed text, and then type touch, which will create a file for me here with nothing in it, and do touch directed.txt. And we'll see if that will fix this by just creating a new file, just in case there's some permissions issue or something with that file. And it still doesn't want to work. So some things are just annoying. All right, we're just going to try that again and just give up. We'll come back to Commstat in just a second once I have JS8 up and running, and then hopefully it'll work. So we're going to start in the Settings tab, and we're going to do our call sign. We're using no call for here. We'll give it a grid square. We're going to add a couple of groups. We're going to add the @AmRRON group and the @PrepperNet group. There's also lots of other groups you might want to add. There are AmRRON field exercise groups. There's GhostNet. There's all kinds of different groups out there that if you participate in, you may want to add. You can reference the SOI for how to set up the station messages portion of this. We're just going to skip that for now for time's sake. We'll go to behavior. I like to see the distance displayed in miles between my station and another station. And we're just going to kind of go down through here, take a look at all of our settings, and make sure everything looks correct. I like my messages to hang around a while because I do persistent presence and I'm not always at my computer, so I don't want them to disappear out of the band activity immediately. So I'm going to set it for 2 hours here. You can also disable it, have them stay forever. Now we're going to go to networking and auto reply. We're going to allow heartbeats out of the heartbeat subchannel because we don't heartbeat down there. It interferes with FLDIGI if we do. I turn off auto reply at setup because I don't want my station immediately replying when I start it up. And you can adjust your idle timeout there if you want to. We're going to set a rig here for rig control, and it is FLRIG. It's not the name of the rig that you're using if you're using a ICOM or whatever, because we're going to have FLRIG intermediary for all of our software. So we pick FLRIG, we select cat. We do not want a mode. We do not want split operation. We do not want JS8Call messing with any of that stuff, or it will cause problems. If we have our sound card already in, audio should be correct. We're going to disable reporting. Please do not spot on AmRRON or JS8 or on PrepperNet frequencies. And then we're going to enable the ability for external APIs to connect, because Commstat is an API. You can add in frequencies if you want to use this to automatically change what frequency you're on at what time of day. I'm not going to show that. And we're going to close, and it's going to throw a fit because I don't have FLRIG running. So we're just going to hit OK, and we're going to just close out of that for a second and then get JS8 to just set here even though it's unhappy. And then we're going to move on back to Commstat here and see if we can get Commstat working. The rig control should just pop up and run as soon as we configure FLRIG. So we're going to do /home/radio. Radio is your username. My username on this computer is radio. Yours will be whatever your computer username is. .local /share/JS8Call. And we're going to hit save because I remembered you don't need a slash at the end of the JS8Call directory. Otherwise, Commstat has issues. And I think that was what our problem was before. I'm going to set our second group as PrepperNet. So if I want to do Commstat just as PrepperNet, I can do that. Or we can do it as AmRRON. Typically, we all run AmRRON, but that does give you that option if there's just too much traffic to manage. All right, we hit OK. And is Commstat gonna behave? Maybe. Let's see. Come on, Commstat. Can I get some love, Commstat? Let's try running it again. No. Okay, well, it's back. Let's change our active group back to group 1. Don't know why I did that. Hit save settings. And come on. Commstat's open. All right. So we don't have anything visible here at all because our directed.txt file is empty. There is nothing. There's not even a map loading. So until we get some stuff in here, I'm not too worried about that. I don't know why it's saying AmRRON with 2 M's in the top left. That's strange. It's correct in the group. It's wrong there. Maybe time for a system restart to fix that. Hopefully doing a restart will fix that. So we're going to have to do a restart in a couple minutes anyway, most likely. So now that we've got that sort of working, let's go ahead and open FLRIG and let's set FLRIG up to run our radio. So we'll hit config and go to setup and set up our transceiver. We'll select rig, and I have my FT891 plugged in. So we're going to find FT891. And we're going to go here and we're going to pick our serial device. Some radios show 2. If one of them doesn't work, just try the other one. This one is going to work first time out of the gate. I'll also tell you guys, if anyone's wondering, my radio is connected to a dummy load right now. It's not into an antenna. My 7300's into the antenna. So we can play with this transmit, not use a call sign, whatever, because all the power is just going into a 50 ohm resistor. So for the purposes of our video here, that's the easy and fast solution for what we want to do. We'll close FLRIG and reopen it. If you restart without closing FLRIG, it will not write the config file, and when you reopen it, it won't save your changes, which is kind of annoying, but as long as you just close it, it works. So now we're going to move over to our TNC status. This is kind of an AmRRON unique thing. We're going to start pulse audio and rig control. So pulse audio is going to show up here, and rig control, both of them have a process ID, so that's good. We're going to start ARDOP as well. So the ARDOP software is running and the ARDOP GUI is running. We need to put our host information in, and it's running on localhost, so 127.0.0.1. And then we need to put the port that ARDOP is running on, which is 8515. We'll hit OK. OK to restart, and kaboom. We now have the ARDOP GUI running, and we have waterfall and all that good stuff. So we have ARDOP going. Let's go ahead and start JS8 back up and make sure that we have rig control, and our cat light is green now instead of red right above the little meter over there. So our cat control is working. Awesome. All right, we're going to do some quick configuration here. We're on, we'll change ourselves to normal mode. Check your decoder sensitivity. I normally run that on 3. So that looks good. And we're decoding all speeds at the same time. That's good. We're going to move up into the bandpass where we're supposed to be in AmRRON. You can check your SOI for exactly where that is. I believe it's 1900 to 2300 hertz, though I crowd the top of that and usually go a little above 2300 because it's so congested up there. And because on the Evolve, you can't see that far up, it's annoying. I'm going to go over here to our display tab, and I'm going to change the bins per pixel to 3, which is going to let me see further up the waterfall. See, now I can see almost to 2700 hertz, actually above 28, never mind. And then I'm going to select here for my transmission location to be a bit further up the waterfall. And we'll go ahead and put us up around 2500. That may be a little too high, but for now, we'll just leave it there. We'll go ahead and open up Commstat, make sure Commstat is going to work, and it's popping up here and asking me questions again because it still doesn't have a populated directed text file. So hopefully that will not be an issue. We'll also try changing that to a 0 and see if that makes it happy instead of an O. And it's still spelling AmRRON wrong. Yay. Again, hopefully a restart will fix that because it's spelled right elsewhere. So we'll worry about that in a minute. We'll just check our settings again and make sure I didn't spell it wrong. And I spelled it right. So, yeah, hopefully a restart will make that happy. It should. And now let's go ahead and start configuring some more software. Let's start with FLDIGI, kind of the workhorse of digital modes. I'm not going to go through the wizard. I'm just going to hit finish and open this thing up, and we'll go configure what we need to configure. So we'll go to configure and do the configure dialog. We'll put a station call sign in and an operator call sign. And then you can put your operator name, you can put antenna info, you can put your station city, you can put your station locator, which is your grid square, state, province, county. You can fill as much of this in as you want and as little as you want. A lot of it is just for macros to be able to pull in. When you start learning to write macros, we're not going to cover that in this video, but you can pull that information in automatically. And then if you change it, it globally changes it everywhere. So we're going to run through here. We don't really have much to do in a lot of these. We'll check modems. I don't think we have to change anything in modems. Nope. All the modems that we use don't have really user definable stuff. Miscellaneous is where we need to do some stuff. I like FLAMP to automatically start when I open FLDIGI. So we're going to click locate. And it's going to take us here to the bin folder, and we'll find the FLAMP program. We'll select that, and we'll check the enable box. And you can set the rest of those up or have it auto start all kinds of stuff if you want, but I'm just going to do that one. In the NIBIMS interface, we need to check your checkboxes here, make sure it looks right, and then we need to tell it where FLMSG is. So when we receive a file in FLMSG, it knows where to send it and how to open it. So we'll set that up by navigating to that. PSK reporter has nothing checked. Please don't check anything in there. Again, we don't want that stuff popping up everywhere. We'll edit save parameters. The new version has separate parameter saving for each mode, and it drives me crazy because I'll go to a mode I've not used and then it messes it up. So I uncheck all that. We'll change our PSK et al here to 900 on the waterfall as where to start. And you can check always start new modems on those frequencies. Some people don't like that if they bounce back and forth on the waterfall. So I didn't check that. Now we need to go to rig control in FLRIG, and we're going to enable rig control with FLRIG transceiver control with that as a client, with FLDIGI as a client. So we'll check that one. And then that's our rig control and how it's going to work. We'll check sound card. We need to check pulse audio because we're using pulse audio in Linux. So go ahead and give it the pulse check. And I believe that covers our settings. There's all kinds of UI and waterfall settings that you can tweak to change the colors and the look and how many macros you've got and all kinds of things in FLDIGI. I'm not going to mess with that in this video. You can play with it and customize it as you want, but if I get into customizing FLDIGI and granularly the way I run it, we'll be here for a while. So we won't dive that far into that. So we'll go ahead and hit save and close. And now we're going to go down here and start doing a little bit of the other configuration. So if you look at the waterfall here, it's kind of wide. It goes all the way up to 5,000 hertz, but we're going to move our little icon to 900, and then we use little center buttons there to make it say 900 on the nose. We're going to check and make sure we see FLDIGI in Pulse Audio, and we do. There's this little level in the bottom right corner. We're going to make sure AFC's off, and the little box next to it says 0. It's an attenuator for the output, and then I'm going to run over and change my waterfall controls to -20 and 70 so that we have some waterfall. And then I like to just zoom to 2x, and that shows me the first 2600 hertz or so of the waterfall, because that's really all I need to see. So we'll go switch to Contestia so it looks a little more normal for folks. And then I need to bump that back to 900 on the waterfall. But we have that set up and going. And I think that's about it. Make sure your transmit level is set to 0 or wherever you need to for your transceiver. Mine likes 0. And then change your waterfall settings, and you'll probably have a little bit of an angry yellow snowstorm on your waterfall. I don't have one because, again, I don't have an antenna connected. I'm in the dummy load. And then we close and reopen FLDIGI to make sure it saves everything, and so that we can see that the automatic start of FLAMP works. So we'll configure FLAMP really quick. We'll give it a call sign, and then in info you can put your organization, net control, any kind of designator that you need to put in there. Sync FLAMP to FLDIGI so that it transmits in whatever mode we tell FLDIGI to be in. We want it to be able to transmit on report. We want it to clear missing blocks. Some people may choose the inhibit header modem on block fields. Some people don't. I like all my stuff to be saved in UTC, so we're going to uncheck that because I live in UTC/Zulu time. And then we're going to save relay data on program exit, autosave data at 100%. I'm going to change my transmit duration to 8 minutes. Some people don't do that. It just causes it to pause for the receive duration of 10 seconds at whatever time you set it at. So some people don't like that. Some people do. So you can adjust that kind of as your group prefers. Typically, I run it at 8 minutes because I don't ever transmit anything that long, and I don't want it to pause if I'm transmitting something that's 5 minutes. So that's all we're going to really go through in configuration of FLAMP. The rest of it's the operation. So we're going to open FLMSG. We're going to pick communicator/expert, and we're going to fill that out. So we got to put our call sign in, and you can put any other stuff you want in. I don't put much, just call sign. And then we want our time in Zulu, and we don't want any punctuation or anything in our date time. At least I don't like that, so I choose to set it up this way. And then we're going to go over here to ARQ, and we're going to uncheck a bunch of this stuff. Typically, you don't use the ARQ mode in FLMSG, but I found that a couple of these settings tend to mess with the RxID every once in a while, so I just go ahead and turn those off. And I also don't want it to change the modem with auto send. Again, if we use auto send, I want it to use what I have selected in FLDIGI and not muck with it. That's my preference, is to just have one piece of software controlling everything, and we can check it and see what forms we have. Our custom forms should have the AmRRON forms. There is a new AmRRON form that's not listed there. The StatRep form has been updated to 5.1, so you'll need to make sure you get that in there. And you see you can download all kinds of stuff. Additionally, there's all kinds of forms in here for different agencies and applications and whatnot. So FLAMP is a very, very useful tool, and FLMSG, I mean, is a very useful tool. So we've got that configured. Now I'm going to go ahead and hop into some of the other applications that we need to set up. vARIM and gARIM are kind of historic, but they're extremely powerful, and we're not really going to go into the details of everything they can do. I'm just going to show you how to make them work, and then if it's something that you're going to use or you're in a place where you're going to use it. So we set our call sign. Again, I'm using the N0CAL. You can give some information about your station when it beacons, and give it a grid square. You can, and there's a few other things you can change. We need to change our push to talk mode here to rig control because we are using rig control. So we'll do rig control D. ARQ timeout's 120 seconds. Some people might want to tweak that, but again, there's tons and tons and tons of settings in here. We're not going to go through all of them. You can set up multiple ports. You can do all kinds of stuff. I'm just going to show you the basics to make it work. So we need to update here in the section that you use for the messages that you send to your call sign. Again, I'm using N0CAL. And then we need to kind of find our way down here to the shared files. And this is how we add, because gARIM you can connect to another station, navigate their shared directories, and download things. So we're going to add files. We're just going to create another line here in the config file and copy the above add-files-directory space equals AmRRON. And then we're going to do another one for PrepperNet. We do everything in vARIM in lowercase if we can, just because it's less confusing and causes less issues. So we'll share those two files. We'll have to actually create those directories later, but that's how we'll share those two files. The config file here has a lot of other options. You can really get lost in what it can do, but we're going to save it. And then I'm going to reopen it, make sure it did save, because every once in a while it doesn't. And we're also going to reconfigure gARIM. So we popped open gARIM here, and its config file looks very similar to vARIM with a couple of minor differences. So we're just going to go down through here, and we're going to update our call sign where needed to no call or your call sign. Again, I'm using N0CAL for this. And we just need to set that in the modem and set that in how we respond. We need to do our shared directories that we want to share in gARIM. So we'll do add-files-directory space equals, and we'll do an AmRRON and PrepperNet directory here again. And then hit save, and then I suggest you reopen it just to make sure it did properly save it, and then you'll need to restart the program so that it loads the new configuration file. And then after you do that, we can connect it to the TNC, which is either VARA or ARDOP. Obviously, vARIM uses VARA, and gARIM uses ARDOP. So we'll hit TNC1, and it's connected. Shows that we have a TNC connection successful to that. And I'm just going to go ahead and ping into, or send a beacon into my dummy load. You can see the push to talk light up, and I just saw my radio drop into transmit, so it is working. I could also hear it play back the audio on monitor in my radio. So we have a success. We might need to tweak our levels a little bit later, but we have a success. We'll bump tune, radio went into transmit, and I hear a nice 1 kilohertz tone. Again, playing back out a monitor. So we have transmittability there. Let's check on JS8. And I hear a tone that's a lot higher than a kilohertz on JS8, way up there at the top of the waterfall. And it is working too. So We have FLDIGI working, we have gARIM working, and we have JS8 working. vARIM works the same as gARIM. You just go and attach the TNC and do the same thing. So pretty straightforward on that front. Now we're going to go in here into our gARIM and vARIM directories, and we're going to create those shared folders. So we just go to our home directory here for our username and go into vARIM and files. And we're going to open up our files directory here if I can get the trackpad to work. All right, and then we're going to create 2 new folders, and we're going to label one AmRRON and the other one PrepperNet. And then anything in those directories, any additional folders, anything you create as subdirectories will work. Now I'm going to create some shortcuts. This is the way I like to configure it. What we're going to do is we're going to create a shortcut for vARIM to the files directory and put it on our desktop so we can easily get to the stuff that is in that directory. Now we're going to do the same thing for our AmRRON and PrepperNet folders. We're going to create some shortcuts there, create a link, and we'll rename those just as AmRRON and PrepperNet once we cut and paste those into our gARIM directory. So I'm just going to go up here and navigate up a couple of directories here back to home and find the gARIM folder. Open it up, go to files, and then just go ahead and paste those folders in there, the links, and then we'll just rename those. And then this way, whether you connect via vARIM or gARIM, you see the exact same directories. So I only have to organize one set of directories, and if someone drops something in my station on vARIM, someone can pull it back out with gARIM and vice versa. And it's kind of beyond the scope of this video to deep dive into the benefits and cons of vARIM versus gARIM. I run them both. PrepperNet uses both of them just because there's some benefits to each of them that I think makes it worthwhile. I think AmRRON has moved pretty much solely over to vARIM at this point for some of their higher level stations. Now we're going to go ahead and go into our nibims directory, so radio.nibims. We're going to create a few more shortcuts. So we're going to go into the FLAMP directory and the RX, which is the receive directory, and we're going to create a link to that directory, and we're going to label it as FLAMP. And then we're going to do the same thing here in a minute for the messages directory. And I'm going to drop these on my desktop. And then we create a link to the messages, and we're going to drop that on the desktop as well. That way, when I need to quickly get into these directories that I receive messages in, that I receive files in, I can use it from the desktop without having to dig into the file structure of the operating system to get to them. It just speeds up things tremendously by doing it that way. So next thing I'm going to do is bring in my personal conky RC file, which I have saved here on my USB drive, and we'll just copy and paste that into our home directory. It's going to ask if I want to replace the AmRRON one, or I think that was actually KM4ACKs, and it does. And boom, there is my personal version of it, which still needs a little cleanup, but it gives me useful information about my system, including the grid square. I know it says no GPS, but it'll fix that when we have GPS information. Now we're going to copy and paste our FLDIGI icon And we're going to do something really cool. So I run 2 copies of FLDIGI, one for FSQ, one that does the regular stuff at 900 on the waterfall. So I take my copy, and we're going to change the execute FLDIGI, and we're going to do -config-dir command to give it a custom configuration file, so we can have 2 incidents of FLDIGI running with totally different configurations, and they don't muck with each other. So we'll do home/radio, or whatever your computer's called, /.FLDIGI, because again, it's a hidden file. And then I'm going to call this one FLDIGI FSQ. And this is going to open us with the configuration file that I run for the version of FLDIGI, or the copy that I'm running FSQ on. So we'll hit save. And then we'll rename this icon FLDIGI FSQ, and that's how you can run multiple copies of FLDIGI. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could run 2 copies and 2 sound cards, and have your 2-meter radio on one and your HF radio on the other one, whatever. There's all kinds of things. So again, we're going to skip Configuration Wizard, and we're going to set up FSQ really quick. If you're AmRRON and you run FSQ, Preppernet doesn't really do much with FSQ. AmRRON's SOI tells you how to set up FSQ with some useful files and some other things you can do with FSQ that's pretty cool. And you would just check that and their FLDIGI white paper. So again, we're going to set this up to use FLRIG for a transceiver control, Pulse Audio for our sound card. So we'll go to sound cards, devices, and we'll set that up for Pulse Audio. And there is a modem option up here for FSQ, but again, the AmRRON white paper will walk you through all the details of that. I'm just going to get FSQ working real quick. So now we have a second installation for FSQ. I'm just going to change this to FSQ 4.5 at 1500 on the waterfall and expand. So now I have 2 totally separate configurations for FLDIGI, and I don't have to mess with anything. I boot my system up, and when I start FLDIGI, I just click both icons, and I get 2 copies of FLDIGI. We're going to go ahead and close some of this clutter of apps that I have running down here on everything, and kind of close some stuff out. I'm going to show you guys another neat little function that I like to do in Linux Mint. And as we're clicking save on everything here, this will write to the config files and make sure when we reopen it, all of our settings and changes were made. If you do a restart, you'll lose some of that. So now when we click on FLDIGI, we'll see that our FLDIGI icon is going to open up FLDIGI with Contestia. I still need to move it off 1000 back down to 900, and it's going to open up FLAMP for us. So we'll click this little icon and minimize that. And now when we click on FLDIGI FSQ, it's going to open up our copy of FLDIGI configured for FSQ. So we can have 2 totally different configurations and not have to change things after we open it up. And you could do 3 if you want to have a different set of settings for FLDIGI for 2 meters or whatever. You could run a separate config file for that. Now we're going to open up our panel settings, clicking on the taskbar down there. See here, this is not what I am after. Let's try this again. All right, so we're going to right click down there, and we're going to go to applets, not panel settings. That's where this is at. And what we're going to do when this opens up is we're going to scroll down, and we're going to find the it allows you to run multiple desktops. We're going to find, what is it called here? Workspace Switcher. So we're going to click on Workspace Switcher, and we're going to click the plus to add it. and that will give us 4 separate workspaces that we can change around on our taskbar down there. And I like this because it unclutters everything. I'll run one set of... why did it add it twice? That's annoying. All right, let's remove it. Hit yes, and okay, remove both of them. Weird. All right, let's try adding it again. All right, and okay, cool. Now we have the 4 little squares down in the bottom right of our taskbar, and this lets us have 4 different desktops or workspaces. And I'll set one up for JS8Call. I usually run that on the one all the way to the right, but you can run this however you want to. Just realize that it gives you 4 different workspaces for each different application, so you don't have everything piled on top of each other. I'll stick JS8 and Commstat in one workspace. I'll put FSQ on one workspace. I'll put vARIM, gARIM, and Pulse Audio on another workspace, and then I'll have FLDIGI, FLAMP, and FLMSG on yet another workspace. So I can, depending on which software I need to use, I just click on the workspace that's got those running, and then I don't have to deal with a whole line of icons down below and that kind of thing. One thing that it will do is if you're on a workspace, like say you're on your FLDIGI workspace and you receive a directed message in JS8, it will pull JS8 over to that workspace. So you can just right click on it and go move to another workspace like I'm doing here, and you can just send your stuff to that workspace. But if you click through when you're starting things up, and just open it on the workspace you want it to be on, it'll open on that workspace for you. That may be a little over what some people want to do, but I think it's super handy when you're running what I'm up to at this point. It's like 5 or 6 applications. It just keeps me organized and reduces the clutter. So we've got FLDIGI, FLMSG, or the FL suite there. We got vARIM there, and FSQ and JS8 right there with Commstat. And guys, this is pretty much it. You've got everything configured and working here. You got FLDIGI, FLRIG, FLAMP, FLMSG, another FLDIGI set up for FSQ. You've got vARIM and gARIM running with VARA and ARDOP. You've got JS8 running, and you've got Commstat running. And I set it up with my 891, but you can run it with your any radio you want to run it with that you're running CAT, because I did this as a CAT setup for rig control. If you're just using Vox or something like that, then you'll just have to go through and disable the rig control on everything. Most modern rigs are going to be running CAT. Another thing you can do while we're talking about different rigs is just like we did with FLDIGI, you can copy your FLRIG file, and you can create multiple FLRIG files with a separate config file, and that will allow you to have one for your 7300, one for your X6100 ZGU, one for your whatever your little mini radio or whatever you use if you use your radio for multiple things. So you don't have to go in and constantly futz with changing your FLRIG settings. You just have a whole bunch of different FLRIGs configured for each one, and it works the exact same as we did with FLDIGI, where you just copy and change your file and then give it in the execute line the --config directory to specify a directory, and then you just give it a path to that custom configuration. Because my portable station or my portable laptop that I use has FLRIG set up for my 2-meter radio, It has FLRIG set up for my portable HF radio. It has FLRIG set up for my shack radio. And I can just click on whichever one I want to use, or if I want to use it with a handheld, if I just want to do data modes like APRS or packet WinLink or something, I do it that way. I'm not going to save that one here because this is just for demo, but that's it, guys. That's kind of the ins and the outs, the ups and the downs, and some really advanced stuff, as well as the basics of setting all this up on your laptop. So I know that was a long video. I encourage you guys to kind of pause it, rewatch it, look at the commands, look at all the stuff as you go. And it should get you through what is fairly intimidating to a lot of folks. Doing all this stuff in Linux is a little intimidating, especially if you're new to Linux. But again, this will work on Linux Mint 21.3, and it may work on 22. At this point, I know there's some testing going into that. I know there's a few issues with it. So if you're totally new, you may want to just go ahead and stick with 21.3 for right now, but it should be working on 22 shortly. So that will get you through setting up all this stuff and on the air, hopefully in a long evening, or maybe an evening and part of another evening. In the digital world, and not just running one thing and doing the basics, but actually set up and ready to do some real hardcore HF digital communications. So hope you guys find this useful. I hope to see you guys on the air. So best of luck. And again, shot this video, recorded all this in January of 2025. So if you're watching this a couple years later, there's a lot of stuff that's probably changed, because this stuff changes and gets updated pretty quick. So anyway, that's your time date reference. 7-3 y'all. I hope y'all have a great 2025.